Welcome back, this is Board Game Officer. So today I'm going to do something different again. I'm actually going to go through all the characters for Tiny Epic Dungeon. Now, so I want to preface this. This is 100% my opinion, alright? I know this might rustle some feathers because I have strong opinions against some of these characters, but that is because the way that I play, my style of play, and their abilities don't really mesh, so I therefore don't really like to play them. There's a handful of characters that I'll probably never really play. I've played them once, maybe twice, and just like, nope, kind of crossed them off the list, didn't like them. So I'm going to go through each type of character. Right, we got our melee, we've got our intelligence, we've got our range, and then we've got kind of our mixture, or pretty much, I don't know, anything type of people, right? Just Nelly Songheart and Zhu Zhang, the panda. So I'm going to go through them all and just kind of tell you what I like about them, what I don't like about them, kind of both their pros and their cons of each. So we're going to go through all the melee characters first. Alright, so here are our melee characters. We've got these four. We've got Gracul, Thordan, Firebraid, Sir Lannan, and Sir Gamelin. Now this is one thing that I think all the melee characters are pretty good. I don't think any of them really have a fault to them, really. I think all of them have some pretty good pros. I pretty much like all four of these. So we'll go over Gracul first. So Gracul, he's a half orc barbarian, 3 movement, 2 defense, with 8 health and 4 focus. Now one thing that's nice about him is that during any melee or range attack, he can add 2 to his roll if he spends 3 focus. Right, so if you roll like a 6-5-5 and there's no use of being able to change the dice down low, you still could add 2 to your dice roll. It's very handy there. And he actually starts with a +1 to his basic hit. That's pretty darn strong. However, because his movement's slow, he does come with some sprint. So for free action, he can spend 1 focus to gain 1 more movement. So if he needs to move more, he can. He's probably the strongest, at least to start with, just because he comes with that innate +1. So he's a really good starter character. You know, if you've never played before, he's a good one to start with because he starts off pretty strong. Next here we have Thordan Firebraid. We got 3 movement and 4 defense with 7 health and 5 focus. So he has 1 less health but 1 more focus than Gracul. And his hammer, he doesn't have any pluses, but he's got a normal melee. However, he can spend all of his focus to kill 1 goblin in his area. So that's as a free action even. So that's super nice if you've got more than 1 goblin going on. You know, you go attack 1 and then shield bash the other one. So he's a really good one to have as well. I really enjoy him. Next is Sir Lannan. Once again, 8 health and 5 focus. So he's got just as much focus as Thordan and just as much health as Gracul. So he's pretty good. And he can actually make a intelligence roll of 4, which he has 2 dice of, and then spend 2, and he gets 2 + 2 to his melee attack. So that's also super nice to have. Right, his hammer doesn't have any pluses, but he can plus that 2 right off the bat. And then he's really good because he's got that healing. Free action, spend 2 focus, and he can heal any 1 character for 2 health. So that can also be really handy. When need be, he could start healing other people. And last for our melee characters is Sir Gamelin. So once again, he also has 8 health and 5 focus. And for his special ability, during a melee attack, he can spend 2 focus to +1 to his roll and +1 to his defense. So that is super handy, right? He's also gaining some attacks to his roll, but he's also gaining some defense, which can be a lifesaver. Once again, he just got a normal attack with his melee dice. And then he has inspirations. For a free action, he can spend 1 focus. And 1 hero within 3 spaces can gain 1 focus, right? So it's basically he's like sharing focus with someone else, and it's a free action. So if someone needs 4 focus, he can spend 4 focus and give it to someone else, right? So he can be really good if you're playing with a magic person or something. He's a good secondary for that because he could give that magic person some focus so they could do some spells. So there's all of our melee characters. Out of these, probably, I would say either, I really like all of these. You really can't go wrong with these melee characters. They pretty much all hit hard and have some extra special abilities. Usually the ones I like to go for are usually Grokghoul or Sir Gamelin. I can't really say that I can't really rank these. All of these are pretty darn good. I just like Grokghoul because he starts with that +1. He's got a little defense, right? He's a barbarian, so that makes sense. But being able to do that +1 and a +2 right off the bat can be really, really handy right off the bat. Now let's go on to the range characters. All right, so here we have our range characters. We have Zazili, we have Lara Gambit, we have Moonblade, and we have Winkelius. Now, this is where I start getting to some things that I don't like. But what we're going to start with is Zazili, because Zazili is by far one of my favorites. I think he's a little OP. As we see here, he's got 7 health and 6 focus, so he has some good health and good focus, right, as compared to the melee we just looked at. As an intelligence roll, he has only got 2 dice, but he only needs a 4, and if he succeeds, he can kill a goblin for free and gain 2 focus, right? We just looked at Thorn Firebraid, who could spend all of his focus to kill 1 goblin in his area. He gets to kill a goblin in his area and gain 2 focus. Like, I don't know. That's comparatively, like, this is way OP, I think. Right? Super strong. He's got good defense, good movement, good health, good focus, gains focus, and kills a goblin for free. He does get a -1 to his bow staff. Makes sense. He's kind of... I'm okay with that -1 with how strong that Tiger Strike is, right? I feel like that evens him out a little bit. And then he has inner focus for free action. He can spend all of his focus to get another free action, or another main action. Like, so he could kill a goblin, do inner focus, and kill another goblin, and still get focus back from that. And it's a pretty easy hit, right? Not a for sure, but not too bad. You get that extra purple dice for him. Every time he's doing that, he's gaining like almost full focus every turn. I think he's a little OP, obviously fun to play with, but I feel like he's a little OP sometimes. Next up we got here is Lara Gambit. She's got 7 health and 6 focus, so still good health and good focus. For her special ability, she can spend 2 focus to gain anything out of the discard. Now this is where she comes a little bit better out of these range characters, because she comes with a -1 to both of her attacks. Both her dagger, which she only has 1 dice, so that's kind of a pointless... I don't even know why that's on there. Like, who's going to do that? Why do you give her a dagger when she has 1 dice and a -1? Like, that ain't never going to happen. No one's ever going to do that. At least I don't know why they would. Then Bullwhip, right? 3 dice, but still has the -1, which, okay, it's a Bullwhip. That makes sense. It's a -1. It is range, so that's a little nice. But that's really nice to hear. So if someone else kills something, gets a weapon that she wants, she doesn't need to go kill a goblin to do it. She can spend 2 focus, pick it up, and then go kill more goblins, right? So that's really helpful for her to get that equipment that she needs so she doesn't have those -1s. So she's really good for that reason. These last 2 are ones that I start to have problems. Right, we're going to talk about Moonblade here. So here's Moonblade. She does have Shadow Walk, which is pretty good. It can be really handy at times. However, the problem is she has to roll a 6 to do it. She does have 3 dice, but right, she's not going to get much focus back from that. There's not a high chance of getting focus back. You might get some, but chances are you're going to have to use all 3 dice to get that 6. Then you have to pay 3 focus, which she has 6 health and 5 focus. So she has 1 less health and focus than the last 2 that we just talked about. And she has to use 3, but she does get to go through as many enemies as she wants for her movement. And then wherever she stops, she does 1 damage to everyone in that area, right? So if there's multiple goblins in one area, that's when this really comes in handy. You got 2 or 3 goblins, goes in there, boom, does 1 damage to all the goblins. Perfect, really, really handy. However, because she doesn't get focus back very easy, you do that once. Next time you try to roll a 6 and you have to use all 3 dice, you don't have any focus and you can't do the Shadow Walk. So you just miss and you don't do anything because you don't have the focus. I think she needs at least 6 focus so she can at least do it twice without gaining more focus, but I struggle with that. And then the next thing I really struggle with her is her dagger. She also has a dagger with a -1 and only rolls 2 dice. Now with Lara Gambit, that was fine because she also had Bullwhip. However, Moonblade has Lockpick. For free action, she could spend 2 focus to get a disarm action. That does not mean that she disarms for free automatically. It just means that she gets an action to disarm something, right? So that means she could attack, do her Shadow Walk, and do an unlock action or disarm action, right? So that could be nice, right? If you really need to undo some or disarm some traps, right? That can be handy, but you got to spend 2 focus to do it, to do another action. So you're already running out of all of your focus. So your next turn, your first turn was great because you were able to do Shadow Walk, you were able to do Lockpick, was great. Your next turn comes around, you got 0 focus. You can't, trying to do Shadow Walk is pretty risky to be able to get that 6 and get 3 focus back so you could do it. So you don't want to do Shadow Walk, but you don't want to attack either because you have a -1 and only 2 dice. So maybe one of the goblins that have 4 defense, maybe that one would be okay to attack. But if you have anything that you need a 6 or a 7 on it, like 2 dice and with a -1 is not very, it's a big risk, right? So what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do after you spend those 2 actions? Now you got nothing to do except for rest, so you can do that again, right? So I feel like everything is just kind of negative. This can be super helpful, but you only could use it once, and then you got to wait a couple turns to get your focus back to get it again. Or go back through and try to do some type of lockpicking stuff, and that's how you got to get focus back, right? So you kind of danced around a lot more with her. I understand she's a Wood Elf rogue, right? So she's not supposed to attack hard. I understand that. But once again, as I said, this is for my gameplay, my type of gameplay. I struggle with her. She's not my favorite. The last one is Winkelius. I think he looks really cool, right? So he's got 4 movement, 3 defense, 7 health, and 5 focus. He's got for free action, he can spend 2 focus, and he can get the stealth, which is super nice, right? Especially if you're ranged. So you can do that. So you could, if you open up a room, you don't get hurt, and you can move back out so you can do a ranged attack. Now, once again, he also has the dagger with 2 dice. However, he does have a bow that he could roll 3 dice with. I'm okay with that. Having that dagger -1, that's okay. Because he's got a bow. So he can still attack. However, thematically, I don't like this, right? He's an elf ranger, and he gets a -1 to his attack. Like, what is that about? Like, he's a ranger and he gets a -1, yet Grok-Ul over here, the barbarian, gets a +1 to his main attack. Like, I understand that it's kind of nice because it's ranged, so that might be a positive. But when you're right off the bat, like, you open up a room, and if you didn't do stealth before, you're stuck. You have to use your dagger to attack because you can't leave that room, right? So how beneficial is that range that you need a -1 to it? So if you have that so thematically, I don't like this, right? I mean, he's just as good as the other ones. I understand that. But thematically, that bothers me, that a ranger has a disadvantage with his bow. Especially even when you're ranged, the goblins are going to attack back still. So, I could understand maybe if range gave you that extra, like, hey, yeah, they're not going to attack me, so it's going to be harder to hit. I understand. But they're going to hit you back anyways if you miss. So why is a ranger disadvantaged with his bow? I feel like he should at least be normal, right? So that, once again, this is all my opinion. Please just take this as my opinion, not judging this actual character. The way I've played, just haven't liked him. So I'm sorry if I come off a little strong, but that's just kind of my thoughts with Winkelius. All right, let's just go on to our spell wizardy people. All right, so I'm not sure why, but there are 6 characters that have 3 dice for their intelligence roll. Why this is, I don't know. The other 2 were 4, right? You had 4 melee, you had 4 range, and then it comes to the magic, and it's like, boom, I have 6 of them. But nonetheless, I just thought that was funny. So we've got Clotho, Aetorius, Atherna, Evelyn, Ulyssa, and Garen the Blue. So let's go ahead and go through these. So first off, we have Clotho. Clotho, once again, I think is one of those pretty OP ones that sometimes fun to play, but sometimes it feels like you're cheating because she's a little too good. But so she's got 4 movement and 4 defense. She's only got 5 health, but she has 8 focus. And this is what makes her OP here, is her Psychic Blast. As a magic action, she can roll her intelligence, which she has 3 dice for. If she gets a 5, which isn't too hard to get, she can spend 2 focus, which is not much out of her 8, and do 1 damage to all characters within 1 range. So that means 5 little tiles she's doing 1 damage to. She's an amazing goblin controller. If you're having a hard time controlling the goblins, someone play her, you won't have a problem, right? Because she could kill 4 or 5 goblins. Well, I guess not 5, right? But she could kill all 4 goblins with 1 attack. As long as she's right there. And she only has to pay 2 focus to do it. And only roll a 5. Like, a 5's not hard to roll when you're rolling all 3 dice. Once again, I think it's a little OP because I'm like, that's an easy hit and an easy pay to do 1 damage to 5 separate tiles. The one you're on and the 4 connected to it, if there's 4 connected. Super powerful there. And then she's got a dagger -1 and 1 die for that. Understandable, she's magic. She has a strong magic attack. I'm okay with that. Every single one of them is gonna have this research, which I think is great, right? You could pay 4 focus to get a magic. I think that's great, so you don't have to sit and wait to try to kill a goblin to get some magic going, right? Because that's what they're for, is they do magic. She's by far my favorite magic one, right? Because she's a little OP though. Next up, we've got Taurus, however you say that. So he's got 6 health and 7 focus. Once again, it's his daggers -1 with 2 dice and his research. And his ability is lifesteal. So he can do a magic action and 1 goblin within 2 spaces, which can be around corners, and 1 hero within 2 spaces, which also can be around corners. If he successfully gets a 5, he could pay 3 focus, and basically he steals that life. He does 1 damage to that goblin and pluses health to that 1 hero. Right, so he's actually not too bad either, because he's got that around the corner thing, which that is super powerful, because that means the goblins or anything he's attacking, if they're around a corner, they will not attack him back if they were to survive, right? If it's something else. So that is actually super handy to have, because he can attack around corner and heal someone right next to him, either himself or someone else around him as he attacks, right? So he is actually super handy as well. I really like him. He's only got 3 movement, but he doesn't have 5 defense even, which is pretty good for these magic characters. So he's kind of a fun one to play as well. I don't mind him at all either. The next up is Atherna with 4 movement and 3 defense, but she does have 6 health and 8 focus. Dagger -1 with 1 die. That's fine. She's magic. And then research. That makes sense. So her ability here is Seeking Bolt. For magic, you could, within range 4, once again around corners, if you successfully roll a 5, 2 focus to do 1 damage to 1 target within 4 spaces. Once again around corners so they don't attack you back. Super handy at first. Once again, another great goblin controller, because she could be anywhere and just attacking those goblins. She doesn't have to move around too much, and she could easily hit them with that 5, right? Not too bad. And 2 focus to do it, right? Not too bad. She could do this many times. Once again, takes me back to Moonblade, where she has to spend over half her focus to do damage. It is to the whole area, but right off the bat, how many goblins do you have, right? Where she could do 1 damage for 4 turns in a row before she has to worry about getting back. And this costs 6. Anyways, back to off my griping. So anyways, Atherna's another good magic one I enjoy playing. The next one here is Evelyn. She is a Dryad Druid. 4 movement, 4 defense, 6 health, and 8 focus. She, instead of having a dagger, has a shalala. I don't know how to say that. I know it's like a little sword thing, but I don't know how to say it. But she does not have a -1, but she does only have 2, which I'm like, that's actually not too bad. And then her research. And then she has Healing Wind. So do a magic action, and she doesn't even have to roll. Oh, wait. During a magic action. So technically she can't even do this at first, because this is not a magic attack. This is just while doing a magic attack, she could spend 2 focus and 2 heroes, or all heroes within 2 spaces heals 2. And then whatever she's doing for her spell. Right, so she's one she doesn't have it right off the bat, so you make sure you have to do that research and hopefully you get something to attack. So she's one that's like, well, she doesn't start off with anything super strong, but she doesn't have a -1 and she does have 2 dice. So she can at least try to kill some goblins, right? It's not too bad. But she definitely has to get a magic attack so she could at least do something and start to heal, right? She can't heal until she has a magic attack or anything. So that is Evelyn. Now, we're coming down to the next two I don't love as much. So we have Yulissa, Dwarf Cleric. She's got 4 movement and 5 defense, which is pretty good defense. And then 6 health and 7 focus. So she actually has 1 less focus than all the other magic people. But she also has 1 more health than most. No? And she's got the same health as most of them. So she's got 1 less focus, but the same health as a lot of them. She's got heal. Same thing, during a magic attack, she can spend 2 focus to only heal 1, but within 3 spaces and around corners, but heal 4. So that's a really good, like, last minute, like, hey, I'm dying, help me out kind of thing. And then Hammer, she does not have a -1, but it is only 2 dice. Kind of makes sense, though. She's a cleric. And then Research, so she gets magic. Where the problem I have with her is because she's a dwarf cleric, I feel like she's too much in the middle instead of good at either one, right? She's not super good at magic because she has 1 less, which isn't a big thing, but it's a thing, right? She has 1 less thing, so she doesn't have as much focus to do magic. Her strength is down 1 dice, so she's really not that good at strength attacks either, right? So she's kind of like this in between, like, I guess just a healer, really. I mean, she's a cleric, that makes sense. But so I have a harder time with that as well. Once again, my playing style, I have a harder time with her because she's looking at the focus and her abilities. You know, I'd rather spend this where all heroes within 2 heal 2. You know, like, I'd rather that than this. This is more life-saving, but this seems more throughout the game you could do it so people don't get bad too hurt, right? So she's one that I usually don't really like to choose. And the last one here is Garen the Blue. 3 movement, 4 defense, not too bad. And then Dagger -1 with only 1 die, so you're never going to do that. And 5 health and 8 focus. So once again, he's tied with the lowest health. And then he's got his Research. But then his Magic Arrow, magic attack, roll to get a 6, and spend 2 focus to do 2 damage. Versus Atherna, her Seeking Bolt, she only has to roll a 5, and it's 4 spaces away, but she only does 1 damage, and it's 2 focus. So it's harder to roll, it's not as far, but he does 1 extra damage, which a lot of the times is not worth 1 extra damage. Usually when it comes to minions or the boss, like, I'm hopefully doing some other spells that do more than 2 damage, and goblins only have 1 health. Atherna has 1 extra health than he does. Meaning when it comes down to it, between the two, like, I would pick Atherna every time, because I feel like he doesn't give me much benefit over her, right? So he in itself is not bad, but when compared to the other ones, I'm more likely to pick some of the other ones than I would pick this one, right? So he's one that I don't really like to play with, because I'd rather play with another one that has an extra health and easier to roll. And yeah, it does 1 less damage, but it's hardly ever what did I use this to do 2 damage. It can come in handy. Now, don't get me wrong. It can come in handy. I'm not saying it's not, right? And this is totally my opinion. This is how I play. These are just what I've kind of come about anyways. Now, so that is all the magic. Now, let's get on to the, like, miscellaneous 2, I guess. All right, and now we have these last 2 that are kind of the miscellaneous ones. And they're miscellaneous because they have the same amount of dice on all 3 attributes. So let's go over Nilly's Songheart first. So she's got 5 movement, which is crazy, and 4 defense. She has 6 health and 7 focus, which is actually pretty good on both sides. Now, she has a Rapier, right? So for an attack, she only has 2 dice, but she has 2 dice on everything. And then she has Terrify, which for a free action, she could spend 1 focus, and within 3 spaces, she could actually push 1 enemy 1 space away, right? So she's kind of like singing the Halfling Bard, and she's singing and the enemies run away, I guess, because it's a terrifying song. I don't know. But, right, so this is Bard. But this is awesome, though. She could spend 2 focus to add a dice to any roll. This is really nice when you're going through traps, or not traps, but disarming traps, or if you've got anything that needs a special thing, she could do it all, right? Because she just spends 2 focus to gain a die on any of them. So, which is, right, That's why she's miscellaneous. She could do pretty much anything, which is super fun because of how random the loot is. She could take on any form that she wants. If she gets a bow, if she gets the axe, if she gets, I don't know, some magic stuff, like, right? She could turn into that person. Kind of fun that way. Especially if she were to get one of the figurines to add a dice to one of those, then she could just focus on that. She doesn't even have to do that, right? So she's very variable in how you play her, and every time could be super different. So she's pretty fun that way. And then Zuing Zong, the Pendakin Brewmaster. I have no idea how you say that name, so sorry about that. But he's got 4 movement and 4 defense, 8 health, but only 6 focus. So he's got a Spike Tankard, right, for a melee attack. And then Hair of the Dog. For a free action, he can spend 2 focus to gain 1 health. He's kind of the same thing as Nilly the Songheart. But for his free action, he could take 1 damage to plus 2 dice to any roll. Right? And so he only has 1. So he's pretty good, right? Because you could take that hit, but then you could just spend 2 focus to get that health right back. Right? So it's not too bad, actually. However, the hard thing with this is that if he were to get one of those figurines, he would only have 2 dice, and so he would still have to use Intoxication, but he would only gain 1 dice because you only have 3 max, right? So he's a little bit harder. At least Nilly, you can, if you get one of those figurines, you could forego the Inspire for the rest of the game and be fine. However, with the Panda, you're going to have to do that for the entire game. But once again, very variable, right? If you want to get the axe, if you want to have him be ranged, if you want to have him be magic, you can do whatever you want with him, depending on what magic or what loot comes out. So that's really handy. They're fun, different play style. I do like them both. Nilly Songheart's a little bit nicer because you can get rid of that Inspire, not have to use it. But I've played the Panda quite a few times too, and did okay with it. It's different. It's definitely different to play because you're managing that health a lot more. But it's kind of a fun, different play than everyone else. So there you have it. There's all the characters. Once again, please take all this with a grain of salt. I just like playing the game, and these are my opinions, right? It doesn't mean that's exactly what it is. I've heard people like other characters that I don't like, right? But that's just because we have different play styles. Nothing wrong with that. I don't fault anyone for liking the characters that I don't like. So don't fault me for not liking the characters I don't like. However, when it comes down to it, my 2 favorite characters of all of them are going to be these 2. And they're a little OP, but sometimes that's kind of fun, right? I don't play with them every time I play, but both of these, it's just fun knocking off a whole bunch of goblins at once, so it's nice to get focus back for killing a goblin, right? I think it's kind of fun. So these 2 are probably my favorite out of all of them. However, you know, as I said, there's maybe like 4 or 5 that just aren't my favorite. I feel like when compared to the other ones around, I'm not really going to be focusing. Like, why would I play them when I have the other ones available that have more health, more focus, and a better ability, right? So that's just kind of how I feel with it. I'm pretty sure I've played with everyone before. I've tried everyone out, so I've tried them. I found who I like, who I don't like. So let me know down in the comments who you like. Feel free to disagree with me, please. Just be kind, right? I understand we have different opinions, but let me know. Let me know what you think differently. Because I know I have my reasons, but, you know, tell me why you think I'm wrong, nicely, please, right? But why you like the characters that I don't like, or why you dislike the characters I do like. Right? Because we all have different experiences. Let me know what you think down in the comments, who your least favorite characters are. I love this game. I love talking about this game, so let me know.